Good morning and welcome to the Sales Expert Summit on Customer Engagement and Recruitment. Hi, I'm Liz Heiman, the Chief Strategy Officer at Alice Heiman LLC. Thanks for joining me for Key Accounts and Insider's look at how to foster relationships and get more sales. This is an exciting summit, and if you haven't had a chance to look around and see what other speakers are talking about around engagement, you have access to some of the world's best sales experts who are providing presentations for you that you can watch either live or at your leisure later on. So please take us up on that offer. If you have questions, please write them in the questions section. I will be happy to answer them most likely at the end of the session. So ask me anything you want to know about key accounts or about problems that you're having with your key accounts, and we can discuss them toward the end. So let's dive in. Our goals for this webinar are to understand why key accounts fizzle, understanding your current situation and relationships, and the 4 Ps of account management. So before we dive right into that, let me know who's here with me today. Say hello so I feel like I have an audience and I know who you are. I love communicating with you. So Barry, if you're out there, say hi to me. Barry is my favorite fan. Okay, so let's talk about why key accounts fizzle. This was really important, and I think that you probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't something you thought about. So what are the key things that make key accounts fizzle? So you've got this account, you think everything is great, and suddenly you realize that you're losing the account. So it could be that it has something that has absolutely nothing to do with you. It could be an economic situation. It could be a trade war or a change in oil prices or any number of things, a recession that has absolutely nothing to do with you. It could be that they're having a merger or acquisition that's going to impact the way they work and who they work with. It could be that they have senior key players that change, and those people decide they're going to bring in their own technology and their own philosophies, and they're going to nix the relationship with you. Sometimes it's something like the company is simply outgrowing your technology, and you can no longer provide for them what they need. And these things happen. And there's really nothing you can do about them. But what you can do is make sure that you know what's going on in these accounts and that you have good relationships. And then when these things happen, you're prepared to address them. Hi, Tom. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so sorry about that. A couple of hellos there. Okay, but more often, what are the real reasons every day, day to day in our relationships that our accounts fizzle, that our relationships fail? And the first one I would say is that you have no user success strategy. So you've sold into this account, they've purchased your goods, and now they're trying to make them work. If this is a key critical account, one of your largest accounts, it's your responsibility to make sure that they have a user adoption plan, and that you're supporting that and checking on it. It's important that you understand what their goals are and what they need in order to succeed. It's important that you actively think about how are they going to be successful using your program so that they'll want to keep using it. So no accident, you actually need a strategy. A second thing is there's not enough interaction with users. And this may sound funny, but we often have a relationship with someone who made the decision to adopt the technology or the solution, but we haven't really talked about how the users are doing. So if you're not checking in with the users occasionally to see if they're happy, you may be surprised. And they may be calling customer support, and you may not be checking in to hear about it. So make sure that you're interacting in some way with the users and you know that they're happy and being successful with your solution. Because if the users aren't happy, eventually your relationship will fail. So it's really important to make sure that you have some communication with users. The third is that we're not checking in with key decision makers. So what happens in key accounts, and we've all been there and we've all done it, we have the people that we are comfortable with and have relationships with. And we talk to them all the time, we check in, make sure things are good, but those people are not always the people who are going to be able to impact decisions from a high level. So we need to add into our strategy taking time to check in with key decision makers. If key decision makers are having new strategies, looking for new solutions, having new goals that have nothing to do with us, our solution may dwindle in priority, and we need to know how we can help them achieve their goals, and they need to know that we can help them achieve their goals. So staying in touch with not just our friends and the people we're comfortable with, but with key decision makers is important, and not doing that can really harm the relationship. A fourth reason that relationships fizzle is that there's no mechanism to measure value. Corporations, leaders in corporations are making decisions every day about how to prioritize spending and resource allocation. So their decisions are going to be based on the value that they get from the various solutions that they have. If they can't measure the value you're delivering, they don't know that you're delivering any. So it's very important to have regular conversations with the people who determine financial decisions about how you're measuring, what value you're delivering, and whether they're meeting their goals and you're helping them meet their goals. And the fifth, and I think this is probably the most common, is that there's no overarching relationship strategy. We just talk to whoever reaches out to us, or if we think of something, we interact, but we don't have a plotted out relationship strategy where we are thinking about who we need to talk to, when we need to talk to them, and what we need to talk to them about. You have to be really clear and active in this process, not passive and reactive. So if you want to maintain and grow your key accounts, you can't leave these things to chance. You need to actively work on each of these areas to ensure you haven't missed anything. The point is that we may not know who all the people are in the account, but if we have a strategy, we may have more success. So that's why accounts fizzle. So if you want to prevent the accounts from fizzling, the first thing you have to do is take an assessment of your current situation. And this should be happening on a regular basis. So what we didn't talk about is selecting your key accounts, but I'm guessing you have a pretty good idea of who your most important accounts are, the ones you just can't afford to lose. Once you know who those are, you need to think about how am I positioned with these people, and it needs to happen on a regular basis. So here are the kinds of things that you want to think about. What are they currently buying? And you may think that's a funny thing to ask. Of course you know what they're currently buying. But do you really? Because they're talking to other people in your organization. They're talking to the customer support team. They're talking to maybe someone in production, and they may be purchasing or thinking about purchasing add-ons or extras that you don't know anything about. And so it's really important to stay in touch with the people in your company and their company so that you know what they're buying or what they're needing. You need to know how well is it working. So again, if you haven't talked to the user buyers, you may not realize that there's a problem. So reaching out to multiple people in the organization, understanding how well is this working for them. What's their frustration level is another key question. Is there anybody who's frustrated? It's amazing how one frustrated person can completely overturn a good relationship. So is there anybody frustrated? How many people are frustrated? How would you find out if they're frustrated? And can you fix it? So knowing frustration levels is critical, and it's not something we think about. We have this key relationship. We want to grow it. We don't really think about, are there people who are frustrated with us, and what can we do about it? The fourth thing is, what's their ROI? sincerely, we mentioned this before, if they don't know what value you're bringing to them, they don't know how to value the relationship. So it's your responsibility to know what their return on investment is. What goals did they set? Did you help them achieve them? Are they achieving other goals that they wanted to? Have their goals changed? These are all things that you need to be thinking about and working with them to make sure that they're engaged with you and happy with you. So take the time to understand, what is the ROI? And then, has anything changed? And that really is a silly question, right? Because of course something has changed. Something has always changed in these large key accounts, right? So it's our job to think about what's changing, where it's changing, when it's changing, and how it impacts us. Changes can come from anywhere. It can come in technology. It can be in leadership. It can be in lower staffing. It could be again, mergers and acquisitions. There's all kinds of things that can change in an organization. And being on top of those changes and how they'll impact your relationship is critical to success. So asking those questions regularly will make a big difference in your success and your ability to maintain and grow these accounts. So the interesting thing here is, in order to know the answers to those questions, you have to have good relationships with people. And this brings us to our first P, which is people, right? You can't know what's going on in the organization if you don't have relationships, good relationships throughout the organization. Everyone who is involved in key accounts will tell you it's relationships that drive account growth, and it's good communication that builds relationships. So what is good communication? Good communication is consistent and it's relevant. People don't have time for someone who's just checking in. And how often do we do that? It's easy and it's comfortable, but really, people are busy and they don't have time for that. We need to have a valid business reason when we call, or even emails, to talk to somebody. Just checking in could sound like, I'm calling to see how your platform is working, if you have any questions, and if there's anything I can do to make it work better for you. So this is not about me just checking in, but it's about how are things working and how can I help you. It might be, I'm calling to find out how the program is working for you and if there's anything that can be done to help you get better results. Again, it's about them and their results. So communicating with people about what they want to communicate about. It's also important to make sure you're communicating with the right person about the right thing at the right time. So if you call the CFO at the end of the quarter, you're definitely calling at the wrong time. And if you're calling the CEO to see how the system is working, you're calling the wrong person. And if you're calling tech to discuss ROI, you're definitely talking about the wrong thing. So making sure that you're communicating about what matters to them to help build a good relationship is one of the things that will really drive the success of your relationship. So not only do you need to communicate with people you know, if you want the account to be secure and grow, it means talking to people you don't know and aren't comfortable with. And for anybody who's managing key accounts, you know this, and you're probably doing it, but we all innately tend to focus on the people that we know best and are most comfortable with. So it's a really good time to stop and ask yourself, who do you know in the company? And make a list. And then think about who else in the company knows people in your company. And then who should you know? So I can't tell you how often I'm working with people on key accounts and we start talking about, well, do you know the head, it's a technology solution. Do you know that the head of technology? Do you know who's the person that's dealing with this? Oh yeah, we know this guy in technology. Do you know anybody else in IT? Well, no, he's the one that works with us. Well, let's think about who else we should know. And then if there are more people that you should know, how are you going to get introduced to them? And again, it's these relationships that will help you get the introductions, that broaden your relationships, that help you solidify the account. So it isn't always easy to get to the people you don't know. And often we try everything we know. We email, we LinkedIn, but really there's two ways to get to those people that you don't know. The first is to have a really good reason to talk to them. And the second is to get introductions from people you know and people who know, like, and trust you. So just knowing people in the account isn't sufficient. You have to build that relationship so that they have trust that when they introduce you to other people, that they're not going to be embarrassed. So if you haven't built relationships with people who have the influence to introduce you to the people you need to know, you may have a lot of work to do building your way up the ladder to get to know people at higher levels and build relationships that result in them knowing, liking, and trusting you so that they'll introduce you to other people. So you're almost there. You're figuring out who to talk to, and you've thought a lot about valid business reasons to talk to them. Now we need to think a little bit about how often you communicate with each of the buyers in the company that we're focusing on. Each person has a different tolerance for communication, so you need to know the appropriate cadence for those people and what they would want to be talking about during those communication times. You know, so if you're emailing them every day, they may get really annoyed. But if you don't reach out to them for 6 months, they may be equally as annoyed. So how do we figure out the appropriate cadence and the appropriate communication style for each of the buyers? And don't forget, it's really important to know what information matters to those people and leverage it. Are we providing them with the information, the tools, and the skills that they need to continue to be successful using your solution? You know, have you sent them anything lately to remind them of all the different things that they can do with the solution that maybe they've forgotten about? Have you sent them anything to let them know how other people are successfully using your solution? Have you sent them anything or talked to them about things that might inspire them to do something different than they're doing right now that might build that relationship or grow that relationship? So think about what information would matter to each of these people. And then think about what information you're currently sharing. I bet that your company is sharing all kinds of information all of the time across a million different channels, or at least a dozen different channels. And the question is, are the people who need that information getting it? And could that provide an opportunity for communicating with people that maybe you can't think of a good reason to reach out to them? So if your company is sharing information on LinkedIn and you don't think that the buying influences are on LinkedIn, maybe you should take that note and either send it to them through LinkedIn so they get it, or send it to them in an email so they get it. Or maybe they get tons of emails from your company every day and they just go into a junk folder or a newsletters folder and they're not seeing it. But you think, hey, this particular article would be really great for Joe in processing. So I'm gonna send him an email and say, hey, Joe, I saw this article and it made me think of some of the things that we talked about before, and share it with them. So look for opportunities to communicate with people about things that they care about. Those are the things that will help you build relationships. And remember that it's also important to be asking not just what you want to know, but how are things working? What's working and what isn't? If we don't know that things aren't working, we don't know we need to fix them. And we're undermining our ability to build the relationship. Yes, Mark, I will add a copy of the slides. So communicate with your users regularly to understand what's working and what isn't. When you do that and you solve problems with them, you build a relationship that is much stronger than if they never had a problem. It's kind of an amazing thing. We tend to think that problems are a bad thing, but sometimes problems are an opportunity to show that you care and to build a strong relationship and to build trust. If you care enough to fix a problem with them, they're going to remember it. They're going to remember it a lot more than they're going to remember that everything went smoothly and they never had to talk to you. So communicate regularly, find out what isn't working, and look for opportunities to make individuals in that organization successful. You're going to leverage that success to look for more opportunities. And those will be the foundation of your future communication. The other thing that is really important when you're prospecting in key accounts is reading. You need to take the time to know everything that's going on in that company, everything that you can about the people, about the products, about the changes, about the opportunities that that company, that your key account is facing. So read what you can, read the newspaper, look on Google, spend some time in LinkedIn, look on their Facebook pages, watch for keys for opportunities that will open doors for you to start new conversations about ways that you can help them be more successful. And remember, if you've already helped them be successful, they're going to be eager to talk to you about ways that you can make them successful again. So another thing that's really important is meeting with senior people. And sometimes we find it difficult to find topics to talk to the most senior people about. But if you're doing all of that reading and you're paying attention to what kinds of changes are happening in that organization, where that company's going, what kinds of goals the senior executives are trying to achieve, it gives you the opportunity to make a phone call that says, hey, I understand you're trying to achieve this goal. We have this solution in place in your organization, and I want to talk to you about how we can help you achieve that goal using the solution that you already have. Or we've been helping you with this problem for many years successfully, and your team is using the services that we have. They're successful, they're growing, things are great. And what we see is that you have an additional problem or additional growth opportunity, and we want to talk to you about how we can make you equally successful in this area as we did in the last area. If you can help them grow and achieve their goals, you have something to talk to a senior executive about. They're not interested in talking about your product. They're not interested in talking about your solution. They're interested in hearing about how you can help them achieve their goals, and that will open doors for you. And if you can't get them to open the door directly, again, use the relationships that you have, people that you've made successful who have influence with the people you want to reach, and explain to them how you're trying to help their boss be successful. They will open the doors for you. Okay, so now we are on the third P, which is planning. If you've assessed your current situation, you've looked at what relationships need to be improved and identified opportunities, it's time to start planning. If this is a key account, I recommend putting together a team, not just trying to do it yourself, because other people have information that you just don't have. So put together your team. And I would start again on relationships. Make a list of everyone you need to meet. Decide who can introduce you and how to ask for that introduction. And don't forget that you need a valid business reason to meet with them. So knowing who you want to talk to and what's important to them will be critical to getting the introductions that you need. And then make sure you get those scheduled and done. So meeting the people that you don't know will be critical to growing the account. The next part of planning to grow is thinking about the relationships that you have. So we made a list before of people that we knew in the account. If we go back to that list and we think about who do we have relationships with that we really need to improve, we can begin to make a plan for improving those. So pull out that list you made earlier, look through it, put a star next to everybody that you think you really need to improve your relationship with them if you want to shore up your relationship with this account. Then figure out what matters to each of those people. Determine the best reason to meet based on what's important to them, and decide who should be at the meeting. Who should you be connecting them with? And schedule the meetings, and don't forget to prepare. Whoops. So the fourth P is participation. Oh boy. There we go. The fourth P is participation. And it's really important that we work together on these accounts. I like to think of key account management as a team sport. You can't play baseball by yourself, and you can't manage a key account by yourself. Imagine if you were the only person on the team and you were playing a team of 9 baseball players. You couldn't do it. You couldn't cover all the bases. You couldn't make sure that everybody was addressed. You couldn't do all the things you needed to do. So think about this as a team sport. Your sales rep is not in a position to cover all of the people in the account, and they're not positioned necessarily to have the right conversations with everyone in the account. So if you think about who your sales rep is, if you're the sales rep, who you are, what your skills are, and then you think about all of the different people you need to talk to, who do you need to bring with you in order to make sure that you can have the right conversation? So there are lots of different people on your team that you could leverage. You could bring in tech support or customer success. You could talk to product development and bring them in to talk about things that are happening in the future in your company and how that will impact the key account that you're working with. You can bring other members of your sales team. You can bring in the account management team. It may be that accounting has relationships with people that you need to address in that account because there are issues that are impacting the relationship. You might need your CEO. Sometimes CEO to CEO is what it takes to keep the relationship solid. And it's often true that you will be leveraging your VP of sales. All of these relationships are important, and the more people you have positioned in a key account, the better off you are. And if you think about it from your company perspective, if the sales rep leaves and you don't have other people well positioned in the account, that key account is in jeopardy. So the more positioned you, and if you are the sales rep, if you think about how much better positioned you are to grow your account by leveraging your team to help you build relationships, you know, your revenue only goes up. Your sales only go up when you leverage the rest of your team. So take time to think about who to connect to whom and how to do that. And again, this goes back to having a communication strategy, a relationship strategy for your key accounts. So we have gotten through what we hope to get through. If your team can start building relationships and solving problems, then you will be able to shore up your relationship. Keep the focus on the customer and their success. And assuming no natural disasters or trade wars or anything like that, you should be able to start growing your key accounts, or at least recognizing when the key account is in trouble and beginning to plan as a company what you need to do to either salvage that account or to begin to fill in the revenue that that account represents. So what did we accomplish today? We now understand why key accounts fizzle. We understand our current situation and relationships, and we have learned the 4 P's of account management: people, prospecting, planning, and participation. And by leveraging all of those, you will be able to grow your key accounts. I'd love to hear what you intend to do differently now that we've thought about some of these things in a different way. So this is a good opportunity to take a minute and write any questions that you have. Go back. Oh my goodness, flying screen. So I'd like to make an exclusive offer to you right now. If you, just for turning on this Bright Talk today, if I'd like to offer you a free, no cost, no kidding, grow your key account strategy session. That means that you and I will spend 30 minutes talking either in general about key accounts or specifically about a key account that you need help with. And if you'd like to do that, connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me you watched today's webinar and you'd like to take advantage of the opportunity. We would love to spend that time with you. So this is how you can reach me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter. Talk to me on Twitter. You also, here's my email address. I would love to hear from you. Feel free to email me anytime with any questions that you have. And my phone number is also right here, and I would be happy to hear from you on the phone. So give me a call. reach out to me. And if you'd like to do that free strategy session, I'd love to take the time to understand what you're facing with your key accounts. So I don't see any questions from the audience. I'll give you just a moment if anybody has any additional questions. I just want to check. Amanda, can you make sure that the slides are attached so people can find them? There's lots of great attachments here that you're welcome to download. And there's a link in one of the attachment section to schedule with me directly. So if you want to just find a time to have an appointment, go ahead and find that attachment or find that link, and we will set up, and you can set up an appointment at your leisure. So I want to thank everybody for spending time with me today. I hope you have a fabulous day, and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon.